All right, showtime.
Yeah.
Let me try and pull up this picture real quick. Welcome back to Okayest Cook Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whonsetler, coming at you from BHA Rendezvous. If you are a BHA member, first of all, if you're not a BHA member, why not? Join. Help protect our public land. Make it accessible for all, forever. But the Rendezvous, if you have not come to the Rendezvous, it is so much fun. So much cool product here, cool people here. I'm sitting down with Tom Healy, who is another chef at the From Field to Table that's a
Field to Table. Yeah.
Just Field to Table. That dinner was exquisite. And I've talked to a lot of the chefs from that dinner, and you are probably the one that I wanted to talk to the most because of all those dishes. They called it a palate cleanser, right?
Yeah, palate cleanser, French entremet, I think they would call it.
I don't know the fancy words.
Yeah, but just a little mid-course bite.
It was my favorite.
Great.
Out of all the things that were there, it did it. Before we talk about what you made, do you want to talk about yourself a little bit? Give us a little the who is Tom, the 2-minute little bio, and
sure.
If you end your story at this event, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, again, my name's Tom Healy, and I live in Wisdom, Montana, a beautiful place called the Big Hole Valley. There's 350 people that live in this valley that is literally millions of acres. So it's a pretty sparsely populated, very beautiful place. Just a couple hours south of where we're at right now in Missoula, and. And I'm on a good year. I'm equal parts hunter and forager. Professionally, I work as a woodworker, mostly designing, building, and teaching timber frame construction, and a bit of wood canvas canoe, traditional wood canvas canoe construction as well. But when I'm not working or skiing, I'm usually out hunting and or foraging. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I need to introduce you to Chris Kyer in Indiana, another guy who's phenomenal in the kitchen, and he's building a canoe right now.
Oh, nice.
Just one of those fancy,
probably a cedar strip canoe, I bet.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Chris, tell Tom what you're making here.
Yeah.
You guys need to connect. You'll have stuff to talk about.
Cool.
But that's super cool.
Yeah.
I have not gotten into the foraging quite as much. It's there's some research you need to do, or you should probably do for a lot of the stuff out there, but
definitely, yeah. Make sure you're picking the right mushroom and the right berry.
Yes, exactly.
And the right fern.
We've talked to some cool people.
Yeah.
So Adam Berkelmans gave us some really hot foraging 101 tips, and then we've had. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. Alan Burgo.
Yeah.
We had him on to talk about what he's doing. It's just crazy cool stuff.
Fun stuff
in the foraging world.
Yeah.
And your dish was foraged, right?
The
ferns?
I did 2 different palate
Fiddleheads.
cleansers, and one of them was it was a chunk of manchego cheese and a pickled fiddlehead fern, and those were ostrich ferns from Minnesota, and a pickled wild onion from the Big Hole River in the Big Hole Valley, right? Just basically out my backyard.
Yes.
And basic white wine and cider vinegar and maple syrup. Home cooked maple syrup from Minnesota from a buddy of mine. And
just taking the store out of the equation.
Yeah. And then the sauce was a highbush cranberry, which isn't a true cranberry, but they grow a lot in the upper Midwest. And a true cranberry is a vaccinium species, and these are more of a bush, like a small tree, and they're a little bit more bitter than a bog cranberry.
Gotcha.
and so it's highbush cranberry, elk bone broth, and cream sherry jam that we nested those pickled products in the manchego on, and
it was beautiful. I've told Tom 10 times already, like I can't stop thinking about this sauce, and it's the absolute truth. Like I was just like licking the plate, trying to get more of this sauce, and it was. The combination was beautiful by itself, but like just the sauce, like I could just get that in a bowl, I think, and just eat it like a soup. Like
pretty straightforward and
gorgeous.
And I mean, anybody, it's simple to do at home. You can your venison bone broth or elk or whatever you might have, and any kind of just a good jam.
Okay.
And cream sherry, and reduce it together until you've got a nice thick sauce. And
you need to try this. You need to do this. So it is worth every little bit of
effort. It was
effort.
spiced with a little bit of cinnamon and clove, and you could use like a Chinese 5-spice to spice it.
Yeah.
And a little bit of salt and pepper.
Awesome.
It's good to go.
It crushed. Like you knocked it out of the park. It was exquisite. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Talk about the Fiddleheads.
Yeah, those.
I think you mentioned like what you.
There's a couple different fiddleheads in North America that are edible and palatable. There's other ones that just aren't very good, and those were an ostrich fern from Minnesota, and they pretty much grow from Minnesota all the way through to the eastern seaboard.
Okay,
and they're pretty easy to identify once you figure it out. They've got a distinctly U-shaped stem, and no other ferns in that area have that.
Okay.
And some people actually will pickle and they'll soak bracken fern, which is mildly carcinogenic, but supposedly the soaking takes that away. I don't do that. I wouldn't recommend pick your poison there, but I would recommend against that. Yeah. But the ostrich fern is fairly easy to identify, and then in the West there's lady fern also, and they're not quite as good as the ostrich fern is delicious. And then I actually blanched those because like 95% of people are fine eating an unblanched ostrich fern, but 5% of people get just a very mild tummy ache. But if you blanch them, everybody's good to go.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
awesome.
Blanch them and then pickle them. And if you don't blanch them, again, pursue at your own risk. If you don't blanch them, you're not going to get terribly sick.
If you feel weird after you ate one,
but they're really they're crispier, they're crunchier, they're a little bit better product, and like I said, 95% of people are just fine with them.
It was awesome. Yeah. I think that's the first fiddlehead I've eaten.
Yeah, it's kind of a new experience for a lot of people.
It was awesome. It was good.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had to get some help sourcing enough of them.
I had. I thought I had enough. I had like. I think 4 or 5 jars, and I was like, there's got to be 96 in there. I counted them out, and I had like 72 or something. Oh, so I got a hold of my buddy Sam, who lives and works in northern Minnesota, and sure enough, he was kind enough to ship off another 50. So I had plenty to spare.
You said his were a little bit spicier.
His were a little bit spicier, and but I rinsed them all down and put them all together, and it kind of brought all of them to the same level of heat.
I think I got a spicy one, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
like it had just enough of that kick to let you know it's there. And
and I'm happy to get you that recipe. You can publish that. For the
I would adore that.
Yeah, it's a real simple. It's a unique. Again, it's just basic off the top of my head. It's white wine, cider vinegar, maple syrup, water, salt, and then fennel, crushed red pepper, black pepper, garlic.
Nice.
Something like that, but I'll get you the exact recipe, and you can let your listeners know. Yeah.
Are fiddleheads something that the average person could find in a store somewhere?
Rarely. Like some, I know it's kind of like some specialty places will work with pickers and a lot of chefs in the East will
smaller farmers market maybe.
Yeah, smaller farmer market you might find, or you might find them on a menu at a little bistro or something on the East Coast, or at like New Scenic Cafe or somewhere like that. Really,
there's got to be
edgy,
some
nice little restaurant.
There's got to be some kind of forager forum out there, right? To find your local foragers.
It's kind of like you can bump into hand harvested morels at the right farmers market or something at the right time. Yeah. You might bump into that.
Ask around.
They're pretty rare. Ask around, you might find them.
Yes, but it was gorgeous. Like how would you explain the taste of a fiddlehead? Is it like
it is unique. I don't, it's
more of a savory vegetable?
It's a little savory, a little bit more than asparagus or wild asparagus, and it does, they fresh they saute up quite well and are delicious. And then just a little bit of butter. So and again, most people will be fine, but if you want to blanch them before you saute them,
Gotcha.
then pretty
Just
much
helps.
everybody's good to go.
Yeah.
And they make just a delicious pickled item. I do a lot of wild pizzas, because
nice.
I love making wild game sausages and prosciuttos and so forth, and they're very delicious and beautiful on a pizza as well. Yeah.
Oh man, I could see that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I need to. We'll talk off air, and I need to figure out how to find Fiddleheads.
Yeah, definitely
in Indiana. So
and I'm not sure. There might be some in Indiana.
I hope
it's
so.
Like
yeah. It's like my new favorite foraged thing. Like I'd probably prefer that what you made to like any morels or anything I found.
And it's got about a 2-week window for picking.
Sure.
And if you take it's just usually take about 20% of them. If you take them all,
they're not going to come back.
They're not going to come back. So take about 20% and leave. Yeah.
And now when you pickle those, how long are they going to keep? Like if we pickle
indefinitely. If you for quite a long time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And then those highbush cranberries, interestingly, as mentioned, that they're more bitter, and they do mellow over time. So it's not when you jelly those, it's nice to just put them in the back of the pantry and come back to them in a couple of years, and that bitterness is kind of mellowed out with all the
do a little experiment and
jelly
see where you
jamming.
like it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like those bitter notes, like the harsh, like black coffees and like dark red wines and
tannins.
All those harsh, because I fried my taste buds with all the spice and stuff. So I need it to be bold and punch you in the face. So
yeah.
Well, speaking of bold.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your dessert.
Sure.
Because when I first showed up to the Teller Wildlife Refuge, the event where the field to table dinner was, I walked through the kitchen, just scoping it out, getting a lay of the land, and you're sitting there clamping skin to a cutting board and like scraping it down. And I'm like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Tell us what you were doing with the skin here.
Well, I always, I've done dessert, I think, for 3 different field to table events, and I always try to incorporate some type of wild game into that dessert.
Wild game into dessert.
Yeah. And so this time, and I've done it before. I've cooked at Teller. For BHA does a hunting for sustainability
beautiful
program in which they introduce kids who haven't had an opportunity to learn how to hunt, who are in college, the opportunity to do so.
That's awesome.
and have some great mentors who've spent a lot of time in the field, work with them, and then they're there for 3 days and would generally do dinners and lunch and everything for them.
Cool.
And so I did candied duck cracklings. And cracklings, just if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically just think pork rinds, right? Because that's the classic crackling is a pork rind. And so, but you can use any kind of skin basically to make those. And so I used gobbler cracklings, wild gobblers, and we had 6 different. I got 6 skins, 3 from Minnesota, and then Adam sourced 1 from Florida, 1 from South Dakota, and 1 from Oregon. So between 6 skins, and they shrink dramatically, I ended up with basically a quart of finished candied cracklings. And so basically the process, as you notice me clamping them to the cutting board and then using a knife to flesh them from the inside, and the spring turkeys are a little bit harder to get the feather sheaths and everything out of than a fall bird because of just the molt season and so forth. And so skinning from the, to flesh them from the inside pulls all the flesh and all the fat off, which you want to do, because if you leave any meaty flesh on, they're just too chewy. They don't get crispy. And then it also pulls the feather sheaths through as well. And so you end up with so just go, shoot for getting it down to a super thin, translucent skin. And then, I cut them into like 1 inch by 2 inch pieces and then fried them in 360, 370 degree peanut oil, and which, is a great oil to fry in because it's got a super high smoke point. and you just basically fry them till they're almost done bubbling, and then all the moisture's out of them, and they're going to be crispy. And so then they're crispy, and then I out of the fryer basically, then I just dredge them with maple syrup and maple sugar.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then I bake them in my Camp Chef pizza oven. It's a little, if you don't have one of those pizza ovens that goes on the Camp Chef stove, they're really a remarkable little tool.
Yes.
They make, I've cooked in a true hearth oven quite a bit, a brick hearth oven, and this makes equally good, fast stuff, and for cranking out wild pizzas.
You could put it in your truck.
It works fantastic. But yeah, just, toasted that up. Got them out, coated them with sugar again, and then the second time they're coated with sugar when it's all bubbly, and then I just salt them a little bit with a little bit of good sea salt.
Yes.
And they made really quite a rich, really nice candy flavor. Like
We're getting that sweet and savory going together.
Yeah, and they're quite crunchy and yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate. The piece of cake I got didn't have any of the cracklings on it.
We were scrambling getting stuff. We were getting pictures of all the dishes to the photographer, and I went to get the ice cream back out of the freezer, and we plated that one, and somehow we forgot the cracklings.
We got to take care of the guests first.
Yeah, but I do have, I've got a little bit more skin, and I actually have about a dozen cracklings at home yet, so I'll get a photo. I can reproduce I've got a little bit of cake left, and
so I didn't try the crackling skin, but
you didn't?
No.
Oh well, I'll ship you some.
I would not say no to that.
Yeah.
But the cake was beautiful, like just by itself.
Super fun cake.
Oh my gosh!
And again, it's just like, how can we feature what BHA has and does? And of course, they've got their signature Midnight Forest bourbon. That's
gorgeous bourbon.
Named from Teddy Roosevelt's Midnight Forest work there, and so the Midnight Forest bourbon. So I made a mascarpone bourbon cake, and two layers of that with the mascarpone cream in between the two layers, with the bourbon in the cream and bourbon in there's bourbon in everything, and then I did a thimbleberry adobo coulis, which thimbleberries are my second favorite wild berry behind bog cranberries, like true wild bog cranberries.
Gotcha.
And those are like a Minnesota, Wisconsin thing. I spent a lot. I live in Montana, but I spend a lot of time. My family's in Minnesota, both working and playing there, and they're great. But I haven't actually had a chance to harvest cranberries because you've got to catch them like right after the first frost, and I haven't been there in the right season to do that.
Gosh,
Yeah.
So thimbleberry.
Thimbleberry is like a people confuse them with raspberries a lot, but they're kind of the velvety looking raspberry, and the seeds are they're quite tart. Not just the seed, but the whole berry.
Gotcha.
And the seeds are they're not like crunchy or get caught in your teeth, kind of like a raspberry seed does. They kind of explode in their tiny little balloons, teeny tiny little balloons inside the thimbleberry, and then
sounds like a better raspberry.
They're wonderful. If you to pick them, they're not like they're quite ephemeral. They're not ripe for very long, and so if you find a patch, you just have to keep going back to it day after, because there'll be maybe like 10% of the berries are ripe, and if you don't harvest them, a day or two later they'll fall off because they're quite delicate. And then so if you go like return to the same patch, then people will be like, yeah, I never get that many thimbleberries because they're just out picking one. So you find a patch, go back every day for like a couple of weeks, and you can get quite a few.
Nice.
And they freeze quite well. And then so and again, maple syrup and maple sugar are my go-to. I've made a lot of syrup, boiled a lot of sap in my day when I lived in Minnesota, and so that's my go-to sweetener. So it's thimbleberries, maple syrup, again, some Midnight Forest bourbon, and then some adobo, which is the sauce that chipotle peppers come in. So
and that was the sauce you drizzled.
So that was the red sauce. We did two sauce. I did a caramel bourbon sauce. And then the thimbleberry coulis and thimbleberry adobo coulis, and then we topped, and I did a maple buttermilk frozen custard and put that next to the cake, and then the sauces were on there, and then we did a mint leaf, and then I candied chipotle peppers.
I got one of those.
Yeah, and
that
I put a
was
warning
awesome.
on the menu. It said to pursue at your own peril.
It was
and a lot of
perfect.
people, I mean, I think about half the people avoided them.
Oh, no,
And half,
God.
well, yeah, I mean, some people just don't like that kind of heat. I
That's
get
true.
it.
That's
And a half the people, and then 25% nibbled on it a little bit, and then 25% ate the whole thing and loved it. Yeah,
I just downed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
didn't-
just-
no hesitation. Yeah.
and it was really easy. I just, obviously got the adobo off, put it right into the coulis right away, and then I split the chipotles and de-seeded them, under running cold
helps a lot,
water.
yeah.
It helps a lot with the
Spicy.
heat. And then I just put them in the dehydrator with maple sugar again all over them.
Oh, yes.
And candied them up, and I did at hot, I cranked my dehydrator goes to 120,
Okay.
and I think 8 or 10 hours later they were perfect.
Awesome.
So yeah, they don't have to spend days and days and days in
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Well, I love that, like that sweet, savory, spicy, sweet.
Yeah.
Like those are awesome,
Yeah.
awesome flavor combos in my opinion. And like that cake just did it all.
Yeah, it was fun. And then of course you have the gobbler cracklings, the
Yes.
candied cracklings on top.
Plus,
of
like
that.
that, not only just the sweet savory combo, you get like the texture combo.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
like the
Yeah.
sweet,
The
moist
crunch.
cake, the crunchy cake. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost the Chipotle was a little bit chewy, crunchy.
Chewy, yeah.
Like awesome textures just across the board, and
Yeah.
just like the cake, it was pretty mellow cake, like from a sweetness standpoint.
Yeah.
So very,
Well, for the
very
of
approachable.
yeah,
very.
kind of tended towards a ladyfinger kind of a light cake.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, there was bourbon in it. You had to do it. Yeah.
But it's a piece of cake like you can eat like a big chunk, and you're
Yeah.
not going to get overloaded with too
Right.
much sugar. And
Yeah, it was light, and I experimented with a few cakes and cut. It's actually the first cake I made. I ended up throwing in the compost because it used a traditional amount of sugar, and it was just too sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Because I knew I was coming at it with all this caramel sauce.
Yeah.
And
But even
the
the sauces, I feel like,
mascarpone.
weren't that sweet.
Yeah, and yeah. So, but it balanced out pretty well. I think
That was
So it
awesome,
So
yeah.
fun. So
Yes.
fun. Yeah.
You said you cook for a few of these.
Yeah, I've done. I
Tables
think
and-
5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
I've done two
They keep
main
calling you
courses.
back. I wonder why.
Yeah, 2 main courses that I can remember, maybe a third, and then this is the third dessert I've done.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
Yeah. and-
What's your favorite to do? Do you like the desserts more, or
Oh, I love anything. I love doing all of
Yeah.
it. I just
bouncing around, just trying something new?
Yeah, trying something new all the time.
That's
and
awesome.
Adam and I were just dreaming about frying up like stuffing a ground turkey leg into a turkey skin and
All right.
doing like a galantine of turkey and then deep frying it instead of baking
let's
it.
go.
It's just like all kinds of crazy fun stuff. But,
Rendezvous 26.
Yeah,
Come
you
for the
never
craziness. You never know what's going to
yeah,
happen.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the couple of the other desserts I've done, I did in Missoula. I did a goat's milk panna cotta
Okay.
with a prickly pear balsamic reduction and crushed black pepper. Traditional Italian dessert. And then of course
my
the
gosh,
wild
yeah.
game is I made elk prosciutto, and then I cut it thin and then candied the elk prosciutto.
Oh my word.
And then that was the garnish on
That
top of
sounds
the
exquisite.
on top of the panna cotta. And then I also did a frozen custard with elk bacon brittle.
Okay.
At
Dude,
one
get
of
those
Missoula
savory
events.
elements
Yeah,
all over
yeah.
the place.
Yeah, and of course the elk bacon brittle is made with maple syrup. Yeah. And it's
That
pretty
is
easy
awesome.
to do too. It's
Yes.
just be patient with make your elk bacon and then use whatever kind of sugar and take it to a candy state with a candy thermometer and throw it on some cold marble and
Oh my word.
and you're off and running.
Let's
It's
go.
good stuff.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What cut are you using for the elk bacon?
I use a lot of I basically usually turn the entire neck into bacon, and when I process, you've heard of the gutless method. I do what I call a gutless plus, because before I take off the front quarter, I take the brisket, which is attached to the front quarter, and then there's a couple of neck flats. There's like 3 neck flats that wind to the front and then back towards the towards the front quarter, and you take take those flats off, and they make really beautiful bacon.
Okay.
And I'll do I'm guessing you've probably talked equilibrium brining on the show before, and but if you're not familiar with equilibrium brining, it's a pretty easy process to look that up.
Okay.
It works way better than the old school, just making grandpa's brine recipe and guessing how long to keep it in there.
Yeah, well,
you
we have
basically
not talked about that
can't over brine when you equilibrium brine.
Okay.
And then so I equilibrium brine, and then I use a unique method to finish my bacons and my pastramis. So I call like my pastrami I call supastrami, because I'll do the equilibrium brine, and then with the bacon as well. Once I've done brining, and with the bacon brine, it's just loaded with maple syrup and garlic and sugar and salt and pepper and traditional bacon spices, and then I cold smoke everything, and instead of hot smoking it, and then I throw it into the sous vide for as long as it takes to get it quite tender.
Okay.
And then I take it out of the sous vide, and it's done. It's edible, but I sear that.
Yeah.
And then sear it, and usually when I'm making bacon, I'll usually sear it in a little bit more, sugar and salt, and maybe a little smoked paprika or something like that. And then when I'm making the bacon, so it's like a sous vide bacon technique that gets those tougher cuts like neck meat quite a bit more tender. And and on a good elk, you can get you can get a true belly bacon out of there. You can take one right off the belly, and works out great. And then so and another thing I'll use the same bacon recipe for is the ropes off the backstrap. A lot of people will be like, they'll either try to take the meat out of it and throw out the fat, or they'll just throw it in their grind or whatever. But if you keep those ropes separate after you butcher your backstraps, those ropes make just a fantastic bacon-y kind of a product as well. And then,
explain that a bit further. I'm an Indiana guy. We got whitetails, but no elks.
There's ropes on a whitetail backstrap as well. It's kind of that sinewy, braided-looking part that runs kind of right next to the backstrap. Okay. And like I said, a lot of people just pitch it, or they throw it into their grind meat. But it's kind of unique.
Just leaving it behind, because I'm not picturing what you're describing.
Yeah, and there's ropes on a beef backstrap as well. So again, just equilibrium brine those, and then I'll do like smoked ropes and black-eyed peas, and it makes like a really good kind of traditional barbecue
sounds cool.
side.
I like it.
Yeah. It's
smoked ropes.
Smoked ropes. Yeah.
Well, do you want to break down the equilibrium?
I don't have the proportions in front of me. I've got it actually written in Sharpie on my kitchen counter, and. It's
is it just different proportions?
Yeah, what you do is you measure, and you can do it either dry brining or wet brining. And dry brining is when you just take the meat and the salt and the spices and the cure, and you add that just to the meat, and then you rotate it around on itself in a Cambro or in some kind of big Tupperware or whatever, and rotate it all the time, and wet brining is when you basically use a solution of water. And in either case, you're going to weigh, like if you're dry brining, you're going to weigh the meat, and it's obviously much easier to do percentages and proportions if you use the metric system and use grams and so forth. And then I don't have those numbers in front of me, but if you hit the Google tubes, you could find it find an equilibrium brining method pretty readily. Okay. And then you'll use once you've got your weight and I wet brine generally. Okay. So I'll have and you can use, basically just put your meat in a Cambro or in a big, bowl, and then get it to where the water just covers it, and then you weigh that amount of meat, and then you take a specific percentage of salt and cure and sugar, and then figure out what spice, what percentage you want to use on your spices. And I think I do, when I do pastrami, if I remember right, I'll use 2 tablespoons per kilogram of pickling spice. Okay. And but again, you should readily find some equilibrium brining techniques.
I'll have to look that up, because
it's really handy. And the nice thing is you can't really over brine. So back to using Grandpa's favorite brine solution, you could potentially over brine your it's just going to get too salty, but if you've got it's basically the meat and the salt and the sugar and the cure, and in this case of wet brining, the water, the solution, all just comes to equilibrium. And then if you do over brine it, the only thing that really happens is that it will drive, like in the case of like if you're brining like a chunk of elk meat, lean elk meat, it's going to drive that tiny bit of fat that's way down in the cell to the surface, the upward surface of the meat, and so you might see like a white layer on there.
Okay.
And that's just that's the tiny little bit of fat that got driven. So that's the only thing over brining is going to do.
Kind of pushing it.
The salt will will just drive that fat out of the meat. Yeah. So but that's if you go for a long, if you left it in there for a month or something like that. But again, it's still fine because if you're using cure number 1 and you're brining it in a cool place, you're fine.
Yeah. I'm really excited to try that because I've only made bacon, like pork belly bacon, once, and it came out way too salty.
Yeah,
So.
It's basically a foolproof method.
I like that.
And then and you can adjust relative to your level of saltiness and sweetness that you want. And,
that's awesome.
So
Well, I need to find a way to use that salty bacon.
Yeah.
So if you have tips on like what do you do with extra salty bacon, I'll take those. But
I suppose you could soak it maybe.
No, I'll try that. I don't know. We'll
soak some of that salt.
Still in my freezer. I'm not going to throw it away.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yes. Well, Tom, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Your dishes were amazing, like truly amazing. Like I said,
Thank you. Yeah.
The palate cleanser was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of really cool stuff there, and I can't get over that sauce.
Yeah.
So.
It was super fun.
I'm going to try and replicate it at home with what I can find, and I'll let you know if I come across some Fiddleheads whenever they pop up next, and if they're in Indiana. So
you'll be able to find it. If you look up ostrich fern, the range will be published online. So
Let's go. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you so much for sharing all those details with your recipes. Like that was beautiful.
Yeah.
If people want to find out where you're cooking next, where are they going to do that?
Well, you could follow me on Instagram, and I'm at Wisdom River Works, where I publish a lot of both my cooking and my woodwork related stuff. Yeah. And then the hashtag Wisdom's Wild Kitchen is what I tag all my food stuff with. And then my website, I do a little bit of food stuff on there, but it's mostly geared towards my woodworking stuff. But that's wisdomriver.works.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
If you see Tom's name on the next BHA event or any event, you got to go. Like, I can't explain like how good your stuff was. It was so freaking awesome. Just like you're taking desserts in weird directions that I never would have taken them, and it's cool. It's really cool. So definitely not going to throw away my skins now. I might try some cracklings at some point here. And, it's just fun, crazy stuff that, like I said, I never thought of, and it worked so good.
Cool.
Absolutely love it, especially that chipotle and the fruit on the cake. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Yes, it's awesome.
It's such a fun event. And,
I appreciate your brain and what's going on up there.
And it's a fun event to come participate in as well. Fun. So next year, if you've never been to a field to table event, it's
gotta go.
It's really a great fun.
Absolutely,
fun event.
So. Do you think you'll cook next year?
I have no idea yet. Yeah, it's like
I've asked some of the other chefs. When they put out that list or the request for chefs. So.
Yeah.
I hope you come back because I'm planning to come back.
Oh, great!
And I want more of your stuff.
All right, fantastic.
Tom, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
We got people to talk to here, so until next time.
All right, great.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.